Welcome back to Fandom Pending. I'm your host, Michaela. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Today's fandom is Scream. I wanted to share my thoughts on Scream 7 now that Neve Campbell is returning as Sidney and is once again the main focus of the franchise. My biggest excitement for Scream 7 is seeing Sidney as a mom and a wife. Throughout the franchise, she's usually just protecting herself, and it will be interesting to see Sidney have a family dynamic with Ghostface thrown into the mix. Before we go back to the video, I just want to say that this video was edited and scheduled and ready to go, but then we got the news that Joel McHale has been casted as Sidney's husband and not Patrick Dempsey. So for the entirety of this video, I am going to refer to Patrick Dempsey as Mark and use his picture, but just know that's not the case anymore for this movie. We learned from Scream 5 that Sidney is married to a man named Mark, who is most likely Mark and Cade from Scream 3, and they have at least 2 young daughters together, which we can tell by the twin strollers she has in Scream 5. However, Scream 7 is going to take a rather large time jump and age Sidney's oldest daughter to 17. Isabel May is cast as Sidney's daughter, and I am very excited for this casting because I loved her in Young Sheldon. Another cast member from Young Sheldon is also in Scream 7, McKenna Grace, but her role has not been disclosed. A popular rumor was that McKenna Grace would also be Sidney's daughter, but since they're not disclosing her role, I think she's just going to be one of the friends. I do kind of think that McKenna Grace might be the killer because she is a very talented child actress, and I could totally see her pulling that off. Or maybe she might be one of our final girls, similar to Jenna Ortega in Scream 5, who was also a child actress. My guess for Scream 7 is that it's going to take after Halloween 2018 and H2O, with putting our final girl in the role of an overprotective mother. However, unlike Laurie Strode, Sidney has had 5 encounters with Ghostfaces. Sidney knows how to handle herself in these situations. However, the big challenge this time around would be not only looking out for herself, but her husband as well as her kids. A trope I think is really overused that I kind of don't want to see in this movie is the rebellious teenage daughter who hates her mother until the end of the film, where they go on the journey and they finally see eye to eye. I've enjoyed this trope in movies I've enjoyed as a kid, like Freaky Friday and Brave, but I've really gotten tired of it with recent movies such as Beetlejuice and Barbie. However, I can see the setup working for Scream 7 because it works for great character development. I could imagine Sidney's daughter being sick and tired of her overprotective mom, much like John in H2O. She probably wants to be a normal teenager and have a boyfriend and go to parties, but Sidney is having none of that. If that's the only way they could think of the story to go, then so be it. Kevin Williamson was also part of the writing for H2O, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were some story-themed connections on both films. Sidney's daughter's rumor name is Tatum, which is a nice nod to her friend from the first movie. I think it would be cool if Sidney's other daughter was named Hallie, who was her friend in Scream 2, but I think that might get too confusing. I would also like Sidney to second guess on whether or not her kids are Ghostface, but I don't want Sidney's kids to be Ghostface, I also don't want Sidney, Mark, or their kids to get killed off. It just doesn't seem right to do so, but if that's the route they go, this movie's gonna be pretty dark. Something else I was thinking about was that Sidney Prescott is such an iconic name, much like Laurie Strode and Ellen Ripley. But now that Sidney is married, she probably doesn't have her Prescott surname unless her name is going to be Sidney Prescott Kincaid, which I think would work best. I think I'm overthinking the name thing because I was thinking, what if Sidney and Mark are divorced in Scream 7? Not only does this give a reason as to why Sidney's name is still Sidney Prescott, but that would give a reason as to why Sidney's daughter would be an angsty teen and not as close as her mom. Maybe she blames her for the divorce. Maybe one of Sidney's daughters is more closer to her dad, Mark, and kind of resents Sidney, which would also make a good red herring. Maybe Sidney and Mark adopted kids and that explains why they're older than they should be, so maybe there's no time jump at all, or maybe Sidney's oldest daughter came from Mark's previous marriage or something. I don't know. I just think some other explanation would be better than a time jump. I also want Scream 7 to do something different with the opening scene. Now, this is me being nitpicky. They don't have to. Every opening scene except for the second movie has a phone call and a kill. Scream 5 did something different with having Tara be the first character to survive a Ghostface attack in the opening scene, and then Scream 6 with the most unique opening scene with the killer being unmasked and Ghostface killing another Ghostface. I think Scream 7 should have a totally unique opening scene. There's so many ways this can go, maybe. Something I would like to see is having the opening scene be with Sidney. then there's already that worry and you're thinking maybe they're going to kill Sidney, and maybe you think, okay, maybe in this opening scene Sidney is going to die and the rest of the movie is going to feature Sidney's daughter as the main character. But Sidney's experienced, and instead of a regular person getting killed by Ghostface, Ghostface is the one that gets killed. And that would be unique. With one Ghostface down, you could be left wondering who else is Ghostface throughout the whole movie and how many Ghostfaces are remaining. This could work or not. I just want the opening scene in 7 to be different. That's all I have to say right now. When we get more Scream info or a trailer, I'll probably have more to share. What do you think is going to happen in Scream 7? Is it going to lead into Scream 8 or 9? Please share your thoughts on today's episode in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe. If you have any suggestions on what fandom or topic I should talk about, leave a comment or message me on Instagram at fandompending. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you guys next time.